I did everything right and they indicted me.
And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Katie Halper Show. That must have been the Mossad trying to kick me offline. We are so thrilled to be here with you on a special daytime, at least in the East Coast, daytime stream of the Katie Halper Show. We've been doing these extra streams because there's so much happening, and we can't possibly cover it all on one stream a week at our regular 7 p.m. time. On Tuesdays. And also we want to make sure that we can talk to people in West Asia and in Europe and other parts of the world where it's very hard for them to join at 7 p.m. EST. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed by hitting subscribe and then the bell. And that way you won't miss any of these extra streams that we do, usually Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Also need to urge people to please like the stream. That's a really easy way to help with the algorithmic suppression, beat back against the tech bros who try to control our lives. Also, please do join the Patreon at patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. And you will get bonus content. If you can swing the $5 a month, that is great. And you get bonus content, extended interviews, early release, behind the scenes. If you can't swing that, but you can do $1 a month, which is $12 a year, then that helps us just literally make the show, because we really could not do the show without your support, because of course we have bills to pay, and people who work on the show have bills to pay, and we live in the capitalist world system, as much as we would like to not do that. Also, I think that's about it. Like the stream, we have two amazing segments today. We have Dr. Mohammad Marandi joining us during the second half. Repeat offender. But for our first half, we are so excited to be bringing on someone who's making her Katie Halper Show debut. She's been on Useful Idiots before, and we love her. Sharmine Narwani is a Beirut-based writer and analyst of West Asian geopolitics and a columnist and editor at the Cradle. Her work has been published in outlets including the New York Times, USA Today, The Guardian, Al-Akhbar English, Assafir, The American Conservative, Al Jazeera, and others. So without any further ado, welcome, Sharmine. Hi, Sharmine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's really good to be here on your show.
Yes, thank you for joining. And you are someone who is so immersed in so many areas. You cover places like Syria, Iran. You are usually based in Lebanon. What are you thinking the most important stories going on right now in that region are, in West Asia are? And the stories that are either getting ignored or are getting misrepresented by corporate media?
I don't think stories are getting ignored in the sense that Iran, by expanding the war horizontally, made it almost impossible for anyone to ignore just another war in West Asia, right? So it's not that the stories are getting...
Sorry, 1 second. Just so people know, and we're going to get into why you call it this in a second, but when you say West Asia, that's what a lot of people are used to hearing as the Middle East. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, back to you.
Yes. So basically it cannot be ignored by cutting off the Strait of Hormuz route, by targeting U.S. military assets in the Persian Gulf countries, Iraq, and elsewhere. Anyone really who's helping with the U.S. and Israeli war effort, the Iranians have made it impossible for anyone to ignore any development in this war, by and large. So it's more how these things are positioned, how these things are narrated to Western audiences, where you see the real holes. They're telling the wrong story. I mean, there's one aggressor and one retaliating, and that's not how the story goes. In fact, when you look at the UN Security Council resolution that was passed last week, did not even mention the initial Israeli US aggression on Iran. It started the war from Iran's response in the Persian Gulf against US military assets. So that's where the story is being told badly. I would say the other thing that's not being told in the US media is how most of American Israeli attacks on Iranian territory are its civilian targets. And I mean, there's data on that. The head of Iran's Red Crescent Society, just this last week, has said that 24,531 civilian units have been damaged in various sectors in Iran, in which almost 20,000 units are residential. It's like 4,500 business units, 69 schools. Obviously, the incident on day one where the students, the Iranian girl students, elementary ones, were killed. And then Red Crescent centers have been targeted, hospitals have been targeted, ambulances, playgrounds. The Gandhi hospital that was hit on day 2 is a private hospital in Tehran. It's a very well-known hospital. It existed from before the revolution. So that's kind of the target bank of the Americans and Israelis. And that certainly goes underreported.
Right. And you would really have no idea about how much restraint Iran uses in targeting civilians, right? If you compare the civilian count struck by Iranians versus by the U.S. and Israel, you would have no idea. And in fact, again, I keep saying this, but it's not just that the media is lying and our political elites are lying. They're just inverting it. It's not just a lie. It's like an exact opposite. So as you pointed out, the Iranians are portrayed as the aggressors, the instigators, not the people who are responding to attacks. This kind of reminds me of what you just said. It reminds me a little bit of how like history starts on October 7th for some people. And it's like the war starts with Iran's response as opposed to the attack, the U.S. Israeli attacks on Iran.
Yeah. Can I point to something someone saying in your comments that nobody is targeting playgrounds and hospitals? Things are hit by accident.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I beg to differ.
Thank you.
They have, the New York Times had a piece last week, which was quoted by the Telegraph in the UK, saying that, quoting or citing 2 military officials, presumably American ones, who had said, we just don't have enough launcher targets, because Trump said, right, we're not even, forget the missile production sites, whatever, we're going straight for the launchers, because it's the launchers ultimately that deliver the missile systems, that deliver drones, etc. And the fact is, this New York Times article comes out and says, we just don't have an extensive target bank of launchers. We don't. And the Iranians made sure to decentralize everything, certainly, in earlier days before the June War, but certainly after the June War. So in every province of Iran, you have entire, what are they called? Ecosystems, military ecosystems that can operate, that have the whole range of munitions and have also flexibility in launching, not waiting for a sort of central decision based on what they're observing in the battlefield, right? So to think that the Americans are not hitting civilian targets, they've hit, let's say, 20,000 targets in Iran, as the Iranian Red Crescent is quoting.
Right.
20,000 targets. These are in cities. You can scream human shielding as much as you want, but when you look at the, past the debris, when the ashes have settled, you can see that these are residential buildings. These are people's homes. Tehran is very, very highly congested city with up to 15 million people. It's a sprawling city, but it's also not a tall city like Dubai or New York City. It's, you have low apartment buildings. A lot of them are just 5 stories.
Right.
Some 8. So when they hit, they're hitting entire blocks. Oh, they hit a playground. That was a mistake. Are you serious? This is like, so early. Gandhi Hospital.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's the Israeli playbook. It's causing maximum trauma to populations, hoping that they will rise up against their government. The opposite has happened.
It's literally called the Dahiya doctrine, named after Lebanon, named after a neighborhood in Beirut. And so where they say we will use disproportionate force. So we will commit war crimes. We will hit the civilians in order to, as you said, instigate them to rise up. And of course that backfires. But honestly, anyone who thinks that this is accidental, you must think that the Israeli military and the U.S. military are incredibly incompetent. I mean, they must be terribly. I mean, they are in some ways, but really, this is not accidental.
Yeah.
And if you
the
are
greatest technology in the world, and
right,
all these mistakes, Gaza's flattened. Oops.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Oops. Oops. Tents with journalists. Oops. Refugee camps. You know what? You can't say at the same time. I'm just giving. I guess I shouldn't be giving Hasbara tips, but you probably want to stick to one narrative. One narrative is that they are quote unquote terrorists and they use human shields, which is a BS response because it's still a war crime. You can't. There's so many levels. One is often the person isn't in there anyway. The second level is even if that person were in there, it's a war crime to hit civilians in order to get that person. But the third one is, which is it? Is it that it's justifiable to kill civilians because of the quote unquote terrorists, or is it that it's accidental? And you can't say both of those things at the same time. So you guys got to stick to one talking point. And of course, the human shields, Tel Aviv. What about having military centers in Tel Aviv? Why isn't that
in Tel Aviv?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, exactly. And someone says the human shields argument maddens me. Just because someone is human shield doesn't mean you can shoot through them. But they're also often not. That's true, and they're often not. And Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have documented that the people who use human shields are the Israelis, not the Palestinians. Just to clarify that. So I know sometimes people are like, don't look at the comments, but it is important to debunk talking points, especially when they're so pervasive. Yeah. So, I just wanted to show some relevant media. So here is an article from Middle East Eye, which speaks to precisely what you brought up before. Let's see. Let's just take a look at this about the numbers. So here we have it. More than 24,000 civilian units damaged in Iran. Red Crescent says more than 24,000 civilian units have been damaged, including 19,775 residential units, the head of the Iranian Crescent Society said. 4,511 business units, 69 schools, 195 teachers and students were injured. And 16 Red Crescent centers were also damaged, along with 21 rescue and relief vehicles and 19 ambulances. And look at this image of a woman sitting outside her destroyed apartment after it was damaged by an airstrike while she was inside amid the U.S. Israeli conflict with Iran and Tehran. I'm glad she was able to escape with her life.
You know, just another point for people who think these are accidental. We have seen rallies across Iran every single day. People come to the streets at night to rally. And I mean, even Trump and Netanyahu have sort of like gone, oh, well, this rallying the people on our side isn't working. I mean, there's absolute visceral disgust by these people against, and many of them may, have problems with their government, but they're coming together. Right. They are also risking their lives because yesterday at the Quds rally, the Quds Day rally, which is Jerusalem Day. It's a massive countrywide rally that is held for, in support of Jerusalem and Palestine that has happened, since the beginning of the revolution. I've been on one because I happened to be there at the time, and it was quite, I mean, it's really, really significant. So in the Quds Day rally, we saw plumes of smoke. They were hitting people gathering.
Right. Poor guys, poor incompetent militaries. I want to show you a video clip from Ayman Mohyeddin, who has a show on MSNBC. Of course, he had his own show, and that was kind of bastardized into a show with many hosts because I think he was too consistently pro-Palestine, or I would just say balanced. Right. So here he is. I'm going to show an interview with that he did. Oops. Sorry about that. I had to unmute YouTube, which meant that another thing was. So here he is speaking to Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, and I'm going to play this interview and let me know what you have you react to it. Okay, one second.
Certain countries and not based on realities, based on justice.
You do acknowledge, though, that Iran is targeting civilian targets across the Gulf countries, right? Because, I've spoken to officials across the region, and many of the targets that have been hit are clearly civilian buildings. why is Iran targeting civilian buildings and airports and commercial ports in Gulf countries that made clear they are not involved in these attacks against your country?
No, it is clear that we are attacked from, unfortunately, their territories, from American bases and American military installations in the territory of the Persian Gulf countries. And this is very unfortunate. What we are doing as an act of self-defense is to targeting American bases, American installations, American assets, and American interests, which are unfortunately located in the territory of our neighbors. Just as an example, 2 days ago, the United States attacked one of our, banks. They are doing, they are attacking our, cities and our and civilian targets. They attacked a school in Minab. It is very well known for the whole world. They have attacked some hospitals. Two days ago, they attacked a bank of Iran. A building belongs to a bank. And so we decided to retaliate in kind with the building into cities around us. So what we are doing is only the principle of an eye for an eye, which is very well known.
I mean, I would say it's not even an eye for an eye because it's not proportionate. It's disproportionate in the opposite direction. And in other words, it's disproportionate, like Israel's attacks are disproportionate in that they respond killing way more civilians, and they still, it's the opposite direction for the Iranians, which is that they still target military targets more than civilian.
Iranians are too well behaved, in my view. I've always complained about this. They've always sought soft power, diplomacy, trade, instead of the military way, the hard power way. In previous conflicts, they were strictly military targets, oftentimes waiting until there was no military personnel around, or providing warning so military personnel could be evacuated. That is not how the enemy thinks. That is not how the U.S. military or the Israeli military think. And I think in this war, also with a different leadership, right? But in this war, Iran decided that the U.S. and Israel have paved the way now for, it is decades, but let's just go back to the beginning of the Gaza genocide, right? They have paved the way for us. Years ago, I met with a sort of like aligned with the IRGC thinking think tanker in Iran, very well known fellow, and I asked him, Iranian naval vessels are now in the Indian Ocean and in the Gulf of Aden and stuff, and he said, well, yes, but the Americans paved the way for us. They said, well, we have to be in the Indian Ocean, we have to be in the Gulf of Aden because of piracy, because of counterterrorism activities, right? And so we said, oh, look, we must now be in the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean and further beyond because of piracy and counterterrorism. So, in fact, the Iranians are using the American playbook on things. And who can say anything? It's sort of like right at the beginning, on day one, when the Iranians really hit Israel hard, you had all these people coming out showing civilian structures that were, destroyed, saying, look what they're doing. They're targeting civilian homes. And people laughed them off of social media. They literally laughed them off. And so I think Iran has this incredible window of opportunity to hit the enemy hard and harder in a way that the enemy never anticipated, because they're really used to the Iranian good behaviors. And I think they should take advantage of this. I said on a podcast recently that wars won't stop unless Americans.
You're watching live, you're in luck. You got to see that entire interview with Sharmine. If you're watching this later and you want to see the full interview, you will find that at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And you will find there some things that are a little too spicy, I think, for us to leave up on YouTube without getting in trouble. So to find that spicy part, go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Okay, moving on. So excited to be bringing back onto the show one of our most popular, beloved guests. He is a professor of Orientalism and English Literature at the University of Tehran, Dr. Mohammad Marandi, and he is joining us from Tehran. Welcome back. Hi, Dr. Marandi. Can you hear us? No. Brad, you want to troubleshoot? How should we do this?
Yeah, can you hear me, Katie?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, apologies. Everything should have been working, but apparently it's not.
Okay. He was able to hear you though, right?
He was able to hear you earlier.
Oh, okay. Earlier, but then now not, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
And
he's just a
so-
big fan of Sharmine, and once she left, he was like, forget it. I'm not here for this. I don't think it's true.
So
I can read some super chats in the meantime.
yeah.
It looks like, did something just happen to his connection?
No, he just
I know, I
stepped
saw
away
him. Yeah, okay.
for a moment, and I'm just staying on.
Great. I'll read some super chats, okay?
Okay, all right.
Iran is holding the line for the global south. Yes, indeed. Great work, Katie. By the way, you're beautiful. Thank you very much. Sharmine was getting a lot of those comments, so it's nice for someone to say that to me. And I usually get complimented on my hair, but my hair was out-haired by Sharmine. Great hair. Duly noted, writes, spot on. When was it a foreign country bought the U.S. to liberate women who couldn't wear their dresses higher than their ankles? Thank you for the super chat, Tia Joa. The ships that Jason Michigan writes, the ships that are allowed to come through have to trade their oil using Chinese currency. Hey, now you're a rock star. Thank you. New member. Thanks, Felipe Porto, for becoming a new member. Seven Us writes, Orange Pedo couldn't even orchestrate a successful domestic coup insurrection when he was president. Incompetence and grift is a bad mix. Thank you, new member. Sadi Shabab. Thank you, new member, Mir Fawad. Oh, that kind of rhymes. Okay, back to, oh, look at this. Katie Albert's awesome. Thank you very much. So Dr. Marandi, can you hear me now? Should I bring him on? Will it make a difference if I bring him on?
No, he just said that he can hear you.
Oh, great.
So,
Awesome.
So now, okay. Let's see if this works. I'm going to bring you on, Dr. Marandi.
Hello, Dr. Marandi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Katie?
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. It is such a relief to see you. You obviously are in the line of fire, one of the lines of fire that exist right now. Before we ask you anything else, just tell us, please, what is happening right now in Tehran where you are, what the mood is like, if how you are holding up, how your family are holding up, your friends, if you know people who have been displaced or, God forbid, killed.
I live in isolation from my family for obvious reasons, but actually, I was speaking to a friend. I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before. I'm not sure, but his brother-in-law, he owns a business. And he hired 2 truck drivers to take some goods to another city. And the Americans bombed both trucks and killed the drivers. So that's, I guess, I've never met the person, but he's the person who hired these people is the brother-in-law of a very good friend of mine who I am in constant contact with. So that's at the personal level, if that, excuse me, if that's, if that counts, there's that.
Yeah, of course.
We have regular bombings in Tehran, often carpet bombing in densely populated neighborhoods. Ever since the first day when the Americans targeted the school and killed the 168 elementary school girls, and a couple of dozen teachers and school staff. The government has shut down schools and universities, and encourage people to leave if they can, if they have a place to go. So Tehran is not very crowded. Actually, I traveled from east and west. I went from one side of the city to the other, and then went back, and there wasn't much traffic, even though today is a working day in Iran, because the weekend in Iran is Thursday and Friday. So it's a working day here, but it wasn't, the traffic was pretty light. Some of the shops are open, some are closed. Unlike the 12-day war, where you really couldn't find places that were damaged, and now you can see just, every now and then you see a destroyed building. Hospitals have been destroyed. Yesterday we had the International Quds Day demonstrations, which are held every year on the last Friday of the month of Ramadan in support of the Palestinian people. And there were huge rallies across the country, and there was a very large one in Tehran. I went and participated, and they bombed it. And one woman was killed. So they bombed the rally, and I tweeted about it, and I did 3 or 4 tweets. I tried to sort of create awareness, but I didn't see it anywhere in the Western media. I mean, this is first time I can think of ever where a demonstration was bombed from the air. But it wasn't the only time that happened. They bombed I know they bombed a demonstration in Isfahan, but I don't know if there were any casualties. But people have been on the streets every day. A couple of nights ago, they walked nearby this studio, people at night, huge crowds in support of the war and the defense and the armed forces and the leader and the state. So yeah, every night people go to the streets under missile strikes, sometimes during the day, but they stand their ground. I mean, if you look at my Twitter feed, if you look at my Twitter account, I posted when they bombed the rally, and people did not flee. No one, men and women, they stood their ground. It was amazing. I've never seen such a thing before in my life, online or with my own eyes. So yeah, that's basically, these are some of the things that have been happening for the last few days.
Well, I'm so sorry. I mean, I feel I hope it's hard to even speak to it. Like, words kind of fail. But I'm just so sorry for what is happening to you and to the people of Iran, and also, of course, I feel awful that it's my government that's doing it. And I'm just incredibly grateful to you and all the people who are resisting. And, you are showing, I think, model behavior. I think the West just doesn't understand this kind of behavior. I don't want to say there are no brave people in the West, but I would certainly say that, when it comes to military attacks, especially the way that Israel and the United States behave is it's such a strong contrast with the people of Iran. And, I don't really like to even give voice to this, but it is such a common talking point. I think it's worth addressing and debunking. And I spoke to it a little bit with Sharmine, but people have been saying, and I can't believe it, that these are accidental strikes. Even the attack on Minab, some people are saying it was bad. Trump messed up. You have Democrats calling it a mistake. What is your response to these claims that this is kind of these are inadvertent?
Well, with regards to Minab, I can't provide evidence for it, obviously, but that was the first strike. It was the first day. And the first strikes are usually very well planned because they want to have maximum effect. They want to do maximum damage to their enemy. So like the strikes that take place today, they may be looking for targets and and that sort of thing over the last few minutes or hours. But the first day was obviously very well planned. And that school was a well-established school. It was there for a very long time. And so I find it really impossible to believe that it was a mistake. You can find it on any app in Iran. It's clear what it was. And, when I see the evidence of the double tap attacks that have taken place many times in Tehran, those weren't mistakes. Double tap attacks are very carefully carried out. And they've been doing it across Tehran. They've been doing it across the country. I think I may have said this before, but a friend of mine was witness to a double tap attack in Ferdowsi Square. A journalist who works for, I think, Drop Site News, who is an acquaintance of mine, told me himself that he interviewed people at another place where a double tap attack took place, and I've heard it from many others. So when you see these things, I mean, a double tap attack is intended to kill first responders.
Right.
That's the objective.
Right.
There's no other reason to do it. And when it's done in the middle of the city, in a square, on a main street, in a side street, in on apartment buildings, or in a school or a hospital, then there's a double tap attack, then it's even, there's no way to explain it other than to say that the intention is to kill and terrorize ordinary people. So when I see the double tap attacks, and when I see that the slaughter in the school happened on day one, and also on day one there was another massacre that went unnoticed, and that was an attack on a gymnasium where they were mostly girls who were playing volleyball, and they were all killed too. But that went unnoticed because of the school. That was also in the south of Iran. So, the first day is not a day where they were just rushing to find targets. Those targets were probably being thought through for days, if not weeks.
Right. And of course, the Minab attack was a double tap as well. So it's just inexcusable.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And when the United States imposes maximum sanctions on Iranians, when the United States openly strangles Cuba, and when Trump says that I can destroy countries, and there's no pushback from the Western media, the mentality of Western, of the Western elites is to crush people, to crush ordinary people, to crush children. Right now, the Israelis are carrying out airstrikes on apartment blocks in Beirut day and night, and they're flattening apartment blocks, and they're trying to make another Gaza in southern Lebanon and in Beirut. Well, they're the closest ally of the United States. So when the Israeli regime is intentionally doing it, what makes the U.S. armed forces any different? Especially when I don't see how anyone can escape. How these people can justify these attacks and pretend that they're mistakes. That's what they've been doing in Gaza for well over 2 years. The U.S. Armed Forces has been assisting them. The British have been assisting them. The Europeans have been assisting them. They're assisting them now in Lebanon, and they assisted ISIS and Al Qaeda in Syria. Why wouldn't they target the school in Iran? I mean, what would suddenly have to change, or that to be beyond belief?
Right. Exactly. It would require a total change in values. Brad, can you tell me if the clips that Nate has sent you are ready? And I'm also sending you something else, and it's a tweet that has an image, and then in the same thread it has a video. But Dr. Marandi, you actually tweeted out a video of Donald Trump calling in to speak to Brian Kilmeade on Fox News. Let's play that because I think it's, it's disturbing, but it's important to expose precisely what you just mentioned, which is the media complicity in this war launched by the West.
This is about ISIS. So,
Actually, it's interesting. When I say the West, I always mean like I mean Israel and the United States, even though obviously Israel isn't located there, but that they're part of the axis, I guess, of evil. That's run from the West, right? That's appropriate. Okay.
Yeah.
and say, yeah,
Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something or?
No. I'm good.
Okay.
this is about ISIS. So, I mean, how do you get into the mindset of this? How do you stop it?
They're sick people, and a lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there.
So
The genetics are not exactly. They're not exactly your genetic.
Well,
And I'm sorry. This is when he's saying this is about ISIS. This is a response to a question. Let's see. He said in response to a question about the Iranians who moved to the U.S. under Biden's policies, as well as Iranians in general. So let me play this again, because now that I've introduced the context correctly.
and say, yeah, this is about ISIS. So, I mean, how do you get into the mindset of this? How do you stop it?
They're sick people, and a lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there.
So
The genetics are not exactly. They're not exactly your genetic. It's one of those problems, Brian. It's a terrible thing, and it happens. And it happens too often.
So bringing up to today, there's a lot of Iranians, over 700, over 1,700 came to our border over the 4 years of President Biden, over 700.
Okay, so Dr. Marandi, can you hear this? I know you can't see it. Were you able to hear it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So
Yes.
sorry. Okay. And then so what is your response to this? Eugenicist, basically.
I think that, he's saying the quiet part out loud. And it's just like with Cuba, when he lost the vote, Supreme Court, for tariffs. If you recall, he was angry at a press conference and said, "Look, I can destroy countries, but I can't impose a $1 tariff on other countries." And he was alluding to Cuba,
Right.
and no one pushed back because destroying Cuba, destroying a country of 10 million is normal, I guess, for the American political class. And so you didn't see any headlines in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the liberal, let's say, faction of the legacy media condemning that. And he's been talking about about Iran repeatedly. He said, I could destroy Iran, and I may destroy it so that it can never be rebuilt. And well, that's basically genocide. And you don't see any pushback at all in the Western media because they're all a part of this demonization, whether it's the New York Times or Breitbart, or whether it's the Guardian or the Times in the UK. It doesn't matter. They're all the same when it comes to empire. They all belong to the same Epstein class, and they have the same values or the same lack of values. So here, basically what he said is that we are subhuman. Iranians are abnormal. And it's interesting that the host says something about ISIS and so on. ISIS was actually the creation of the United States, as you know, as your audience, most of them know. ISIS and Al-Qaeda were created with the help of their regional allies. Once you and I discussed this once in some detail a few weeks ago, so I don't want to go over it. But that's their own creation. That's their own monster of Frankenstein. Just like the neo-Nazis that they create, or the Boko Haram that they create, or the fascists that in Latin America they created. It's their own creation. But to say that Iranians are abnormal, that's like saying, people of color or dark-skinned people are subhuman or abnormal, or Slavs in the case of the Russians. I think this is something that this is something very widespread, and the fact that there's been no real pushback in the Western media shows that at the end of the day, this is a common belief, and people like him and the media are preparing the grounds to kill Iranians,
Yes.
to kill children,
Yeah.
because if there's something wrong with their chromosomes, then they're by nature inferior,
Right.
they're by nature evil, so they can be slaughtered.
Right. I mean, it's very Hitlerian.
Oh
Not-
yes,
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to just go back to that clip of Kilmeade and Trump, and trigger warning everyone, but they said some more stuff.
How important would it be to get out that besiege force, the thugs that walk the streets and the moral?
Great if we could do
are we aiming for them?
No, these are bad people. They go out shooting protesters. You're a protester, they shoot you right through the head. This is an evil group of people. And if we had them have a nuclear weapon, they would use it and they wouldn't lose an ounce of sleep.
Interesting. I mean, just a reminder, of course, about Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who were shot through the head, and Trump's administration called them domestic terrorists. But please respond. Your response, Dr. Marandi.
Yeah, and again, they bombed a demonstration yesterday. They bombed people in Tehran protesting against the war, and they murdered a woman with a missile. And they have the audacity to talk about peaceful protesters. There are no one in Iran ever gunned down peaceful protesters. And I think by now everyone knows what the terror attacks and the semi-coup attempt that we saw a couple of months ago, that it was all linked to the same war. The U.S. Treasury Secretary brought down the currency, then Mossad and the CIA brought in weapons and ordered their terrorists across the country to assault the police and assault state institutions and public property. That's what happened. Yes, 3,117 people were killed, including 200 police officers and more than 100 volunteers. And I don't know the exact number, but most of the people were killed by these terrorists. And if anyone is to blame, I mean, definitely people are to blame. It's the United States. It is Trump himself who murdered these people because he supported these terrorists. And right now he wants to do the same thing by hiring a Kurdish terrorist to attack Iran, or by bombing Iran himself and slaughtering people, carrying out double tap attacks, murdering kids at school, and trying to blame Iran and say that Iran actually had Tomahawk missiles and they themselves killed their own kids, even though it was the first wave of attacks. I mean, the United States hadn't begun the war before then for Iran to retaliate. So this is how the United States works. And again, as I said, while there are excellent people across the United States, you, Brad, and others included, and they're not a few. They're not just a few. There are many. No doubt, lots of good people, but there are those people who, when Trump says that they are genetically different from us, there are a lot of people who buy into that, and it's not just MAGA people. If it wasn't, if it was just them, then you would see his opponents outraged by these comments. But I have yet to see that outrage.
Right, and you see people arguing
his
against
mainstream opponents.
Right. And you see people in the media and Democrats arguing against what's happening to the Iranian people, not just saying this won't work, this will backfire, it won't have the regime change, or Margaret Brennan asking Rubio why there wasn't a fuller regime change in Venezuela. I was about to say Cuba, Freudian slip, because hopefully they're not next, but he's definitely implied that they are next. I want to show a clip related to the bombings that you've been talking about of Pete Hegseth. And this is a cool mashup, poignant mashup that Breakthrough News did. Brad, if that's ready, if that's not ready, I can ask about something else.
Yeah, Katie, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I'll ask about something else, and then we'll get to that one.
Okay. Great.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I wanted to show something, it is despicable that the media isn't speaking about the victims of this war, and you contrast the way that the media talks about Palestinians or Iranians with the way that they spoke about Ukrainians and Ukrainian children. And of course, I'm not celebrating, the murder of anyone, any civilians, or you contrast that the way that they to the way that they talked about Syrian children, not the Syrian children killed by the current leader of Syria, right? But the Syrian children who they claim were killed by Assad in attacks that it's very undetermined whether it actually was by Assad, etc. But this child I saw, he's been, a lot of people have seen this image, and it's just painful. It is Brad. Can we zoom in on the top one of those, top image? So this is an incredibly sweet child. If you go up a little bit, Brad. So little Mikhail proudly tells everyone, Mikhail means God's angel. I can't see, Brad. It's tell me your wish, I'll fulfill it. He's saying of his love for Iran and his homeland's victory. He is called now Mikhail, the angel of Iran. That's him waving goodbye to his mother for the last time before he was killed in a strike. And now there's video of him singing. And I just wanted to play it. And maybe the people who don't care about what's happening in Iran will see this and realize that these are the type of people who are being killed.
With the wrong sort of genes.
I'm sorry? Say that again, sorry?
With the wrong sort of genes.
Right, exactly.
The children with the wrong sort of genes.
Right, the abnormal, yeah. So can you tell us what he's saying?
I couldn't hear properly.
Oh, okay.
But I think he was saying something about, from what I remember, he was saying something about fathers.
Yeah.
And something like that. But,
yeah. Right, because it's not, sorry about that. You can't hear it with well enough. If anyone speaks Farsi in the chat and can tell us what was said, Nate, if you can look and see if anyone translated it then please let us know. But you've seen this video already, and I just wanted to make sure people saw it because, again, it is inconceivable that people here are cheering this on at the worst, or perhaps at the closest being indifferent at the best. When I say the best, I mean people in media and our political elites. The range is from cheering it on to saying, oh, this is not a good idea because it's going to backfire in terms of U.S. interests, not saying, oh, this is not a good idea because it's doing things like killing these children.
Well, I mean, Katie, why would they care? I mean, no one at the New York Times cares about these kids. No one in the Washington Post, no one at CNN cares.
Right.
These are the same people who've been trying their best for well over 2 years to help the Israelis carry out the genocide in Gaza. They've been, we've been seeing images and footage of buildings collapsing and children's legs hanging out from under the rubble, or like kids being thrown across the street and hanging from the building next door. We've seen so many, or kids being burned alive in fires. We've seen so many of this over the, well over 2 years. And these people have been trying to say that this is not a genocide and that this is a more moral army and to blame the Palestinians. So this is who they are. They have no humanity. Right now, as we speak, they're slaughtering families in Lebanon. It's worse in Lebanon than in Iran. They carpet bomb Lebanon, and they're bringing down apartment blocks in Beirut. Their intention, they call it mowing the lawn, or the Dahiya doctrine,
Right.
Dahiya is that southern Beirut neighborhood that they're flattening right now. And the West has journalists there. In Gaza, they kept saying we don't have people on the ground. They have people in Lebanon. But those journalists are themselves bound to the Epstein class because that's who pays them. So even though some of them are Lebanese or some of them are Westerners, but they have Lebanese fixers, drivers, producers, they're going to call those apartment blocks Hezbollah strongholds,
right,
or Hezbollah targets, even though they're just like 10, 15 families living in them, because that's how they maintain their jobs. That's how they pay their mortgage. That's who they are. So I have zero expectations of senators and Congress people and journalists and the legacy media, because they're completely corrupted. I mean, if they weren't completely corrupted, there would be revolution over the Epstein files,
right.
to put it very bluntly. They would be up in arms, literally. So, but they're not, because they don't care about American kids. And if they don't care about American kids, why in the world would they care about Palestinian or Lebanese or Iranian kids?
Right.
So to you and me, and to Brad, and to normal people, to your audience, this is utterly this is abnormal. But and it's impossible for us to comprehend how people could be like this, because we're all normal people.
Right.
But these people, they have no moral compass. They're void of morality.
Yeah. It's so disturbing. So we do have now that
I mean, look at Cuba. I mean,
right.
Katie, just look at Cuba. They're strangling a country. And no one cared. I mean, not that I don't mean ordinary people, but no one you're not seeing anyone in mainstream media saying, why are you strangling kids in Cuba? I mean, the kids in Cuba, they can sing songs like him in Spanish.
Right.
They're probably doing that at school too, about their fathers and their mothers and their sisters and their brothers. But they strangle them too.
Yeah.
Or when they bomb boats, and it's just we could go on and on, but that's just how it is.
Right. Yeah, I'm joining a convoy that goes to Cuba on the 20th that Code Pink and Progressive International are organizing. So I'll be there with a bunch of people to show solidarity with the people of Cuba, to document what's happening, and to, show our governments that they shouldn't be doing this. But yeah, they are next, and they are in the crosshairs. And of course, as we point out constantly, even when it's not a physical war, sanctions are murderous. They don't just cripple economies and harm people. They do actually kill people, because you have people deprived of dialysis, you have people deprived of cancer treatment, you have people who can't get their insulin. So again, we have a sadistic power structure. Dr. Marandi, how much time do you have so I can prioritize what to ask you, because you are so hardworking?
You're the boss, so
okay.
You're the boss, so
I'm going to put that on my website.
My seat this is a very uncomfortable seat, so that's the only problem. Otherwise, I'm good.
Well, if you want to stand
up,
if
you see me constantly moving around, it's because the seat is terrible.
Yeah. Oh, I wish you had a cushion or something, but and feel free if you need to walk around or something. I can show a video while you do that. So we have another video. This one is of this is the Breakthrough News video. You have that one, Brad, ready? So this is a good mashup that our friends at Breakthrough News did of Pete Hegseth and the people of Iran.
Leadership is in no better shape. Desperate.
Sorry, let's start from the beginning.
Iran's leadership is in no better shape. Desperate and hiding, they've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do.
Okay, let me translate this. Sorry. So, and here you have an Iranian leader. Okay.
That's what rats do.
God willing, we too. And this is Mohsen Ejei. sorry, I'm butchering it probably, Chief Justice of Iran.
He's the head of the judiciary.
Okay, yeah. God willing, we too, like the people who have this passion and emotion, want to be with the people, alongside the people. And while he's speaking, a bomb explodes. So you see and hear that bomb exploding. So watch this. I mean, you see the vibration. Until our last breath and until the last moment. The people are not afraid of this. The message of the, and here you have the Secretary, Supreme National Council, Ali Larjani. Again, I'm sorry about my Farsi pronunciation.
No, it's good.
The people are not afraid of this. The message of the people's presence is that we stand firm against. Sorry about this. Is that we stand firm against the enemies. God willing. Thank you. And now you have the president of Iran who's walking without a bodyguard, without security. This is Masoud Pezeshkian. Peace be upon you. He's saying to people, they're saying that to him. Today is Jerusalem Day in Iran. And now we have the maybe the world's most patient man, Abbas Araghchi, who's been making the rounds on media shows and trying not to laugh when asked absolutely ridiculous questions. Okay, so let's see what he says here. Today is Jerusalem Day in Iran. And despite the brutal attacks and assaults that the Zionist regime and the U.S. carried out just today, we are facing a flood of millions of people, not only in Tehran, but in all cities. This shows the firm determination of and will of Iranians in supporting the Islamic Republic, in supporting the issue of Jerusalem, in supporting Palestine, and in supporting all the ideals that we have had, all the ideals that we have had over these years and have brought us to this point. So, yeah, incredible contrast between the words of...
So these are the rats.
Sorry?
These are the rats.
Oh, right, the rats, exactly. The rats
these
were
are the
hiding.
Rats.
Right, yes, exactly. Let's see where... I would love to see Pete Hegseth in a comparable situation. Something tells me he wouldn't be walking without bodyguards throughout the streets.
And they bombed, as we said earlier, they bombed this demonstration. Right. They bombed peaceful protesters. I don't know if that's ever happened in human history before, but all these Iranian senior officials were there too, with the people as it happened.
Right. Yeah, it's
and no one escaped, no one ran away.
Right.
Neither the people nor these leaders.
Right. Yeah, or the people filming or anything. Yeah, I mean that is not. I don't have that bravery. I have to say.
We'll see.
Oh, yeah. Well, inshallah, we won't have to see it over here. Although, again, it's like, I mean, yeah. Oh, and I wanted.
I personally think that people who are on the side of righteousness and what is right, that they are more steadfast than others. Yeah. Because you know what you're doing is right.
I actually wanted to ask you about that. I mean,
you may be afraid.
Right. Yeah, I'm not It's funny when people say fearless. I mean, the brave thing is to not be fearless, is to be full of fear and still do it. And I wanted to. Well, I'm going to save that because I want to ask you another more like political question. And then I will go to a question I have that's a more philosophical one, which is something you and I touched on a little bit over Telegram the other day. So let's. I want to ask you about the newly named leader. There is, of course, a lot of people claim that Khamenei was dead, and now there'll be no Iranian leadership, etc. But tell us about the new tell us about Mojtaba. First of all, I can't pronounce his first name. So is it Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the previous Ayatollah?
It's Mojtaba.
Mojtaba. Okay.
Mojtaba.
Mojtaba Khamenei,
That's right.
the son of the previous Ayatollah, who's now been elected the new supreme leader. Obviously, Trump is, quote, not happy with this choice, which is a great endorsement. So what can you tell us about him?
Well, he's a scholar. He's a high-ranking scholar. He studied at both university, but also at religious seminaries. He's been teaching high-ranking students for 20 years, but his office, very low profile. All of my children are low profile people. And none of his kids have businesses. He's from the beginning when he became leader. He forbade that for any of his children, and not that he's against private sector, but he said that it's not appropriate for my family to be in business. So he was a low profile person, but he's very well acquainted with politics and foreign policy and the economy in the country, because he's been an aide to his father for a very long period of time. I think that there will be a strong amount of continuity. But in general, the fact that, when they say that the Ayatollah Khamenei has been martyred, and so it's over, that's really nonsense. We have a constitution, and whenever a leader is either removed from power or is martyred or passes away, the constitution is very clear what happens. A three-man council runs the three heads of the head of the judiciary, the head of the president, and a representative from the guardian council. Those three people run the country until the council or assembly of experts elects a new leader. And that's what will be in the future as well. So there's no dead end. The country has a very sophisticated political system. It has a sophisticated constitution. And I think those people among Western elites, the ones who like bombing people, that's their racism. They think that anything that is not like them is unsophisticated and abnormal and unstable. That's why they say regime all the time.
Right.
Regime has a very negative connotation, and it's supposed to mean abnormal. But they'll never say like the French regime or the Saudi regime or the Israeli regime or the Kuwaiti or but they'll say it to Iran or Cuba or Venezuela, the Maduro regime or the Venezuelan regime, the Cuban regime. That's for us, for Iran and them.
It's but just literally bad. That's all it means. Like that's all they do is if it's bad, then it's regime.
Yeah. And I don't mean to say that everyone who uses the term, is being nasty. It's so widely used.
Exactly. They don't even realize.
A lot of our mutual friends who I won't name, I see them use it when they speak about Iran, and I know they don't mean it in a bad way.
Right.
But it's been said so often. It's said so often that it's just that's the first thing that comes to mind for them, the first word to use, even though they don't mean it in a bad way.
Right. Yeah, I had to try, train myself to stop saying it because it's so pervasive. No, but that is all it is.
And I often use it. I do the reverse. I say the Trump regime, the American regime, and so on. It's sort of. I mean, if they weren't saying it about Iran, I wouldn't do that. But it's sort of like my decolonizing response to the narrative.
Right. Yeah.
I don't mean to be nasty. It's just it's
accurate though.
Yeah.
And speaking of language, actually, something I asked Sharmine we didn't get to, but can you just explain to people who don't already know why the term, especially because you're a professor of Orientalism, but the term West Asia instead of the Middle East, where that comes from?
I don't know where it comes from. I don't know where
or why
it came
it's
from.
used, though.
Well, because the Middle East is sort of a Eurocentric term.
Right.
So you have the Near East, the Middle East, and the Far East. So China is the Far East, but far to where? To Europe. So it is a sort of Eurocentric geography. But when you say West Asia, well, West Asia, then you have East Asia, you have South Asia, you have Central Asia, and you have Europe. So it's sort of a, I think it's a better phrase. Of course, the Middle East, when they say the Middle East, they often also include Egypt. But when you say West Asia, it doesn't really include Egypt that much. But you can say West Asia, North Africa, you know. But I prefer West Asia myself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I want to show a couple more clips, by the way, Brad. We have a few more clips of this protest, not protest, demonstration. What would you call it? The Jerusalem Day. It's a it's a protest in support of Palestinians, right? Is it called
Jerusalem Day? Yeah.
Jerusalem Day. Yeah. So, which was again bombed, and as you said, it's not getting a lot of attention that this happened. But we actually have some images of that. We have one of them is one that you posted, and then Nate, if you could give Brad the last two ones, the one that Max Blumenthal posted, and one that someone else posted. That would be great. Okay, so let's just take a look at this one. I'll describe it because you'll remember though because you posted it. But this is good for our audience to see. So there's you can see the bomb in the air. And as you can see, and as Dr. Marandi described, there's no one is running from it. People are very steadfast and they're staying there. We also have one. Sorry, what were you gonna say? Oh, there may be.
Actually, there's another clip that I retweeted.
Yeah.
And there's this young woman who's speaking in English and explaining things, and then suddenly, and she's explaining what is meant by Allahu Akbar, and then suddenly there's the explosion, and people, it was that, you know, there are numerous clips, and you would think, Katie, that this would be like the top news story in the world, right? A massive protest against Trump and against Netanyahu is bombed by, you know, American and Israeli aircraft, but nothing. It's a blackout.
Right, exactly. And yes, you retweeted this, and the thing that I mentioned was tweeted by Max Blumenthal is precisely the clip that you also retweeted. So here it is. Let's take a look at this. Brad, do you have this one yet, or do you want me to show it?
If you wouldn't mind, because I don't think I have it yet.
Okay, yeah.
Apologies.
Sorry, I know Nate and I have been bombarding you with images. Okay, one second. Okay, we did that one. So that one you posted, why isn't it global news? Very good question. And then let me play this one. Okay. Thank you everyone for your patience. Oh God, Bucky. Shh. Sorry about that.
You thank everyone for their patience, but I'm the one sitting on this chair.
Well, I thank you especially. I thank everyone for their patience. And speaking of steadfastness and fortitude, Dr. Marandi.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So here it is.
Hey, American people, whenever you hear Allahu Akbar, you usually think an explosion would follow because this word has been misused by extremists like ISIS members. But I want to tell you what it really means. Allahu Akbar means God is greater than anything and more powerful than everything. Allahu Akbar means God is greater than the U.S. aircraft carriers, and that's why we did not fear when they appeared in the Persian Gulf. Allahu Akbar means God is greater than the U.S B-2 bombers, and that's why we do not run away. Despite constant explosions and fire jets flying over our heads. Allahu Akbar means God is great. Allahu Akbar! Great. Allahu Akbar! 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 Did you see what just happened? An explosion really happened right behind me, and people did not run away. They didn't fear. They just kept chanting Allahu Akbar, because Allahu Akbar means God is greater than anything. God is greater than any superpower in the world, and their equipment and their weapons. So we are not afraid of the United States of America, because God is greater and God is with us.
I mean, you couldn't have like choreographed that or made that up. You know, she's saying God is great and that they're fearless and that ISIS has misused it and they're not the ones who are bombing and you know, the United States is. And then lo and behold, that literally happens and she doesn't run off, and neither do any of the people. So.
Yeah, it's quite, you know, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary how the Iranian people are reacting to all this, and the courage and the bravery of these men and women, some very young girls and boys who've never seen war or anything like that, but they're standing their ground, and they're motivated by morality. These are the people who, of course, Trump says have genetic, you know, they have genetic problems, that they're subhuman. Just like the Zionists, who, and of course, thus they all deserve to die. They deserve to be bombed. That's why when they're bombed, the Western media doesn't even report it, because they're not worthy of being reported in the news. You would think that this woman, when the West talks about women's rights, which has always been a lie.
Of course.
Women in Iran are far more emancipated than women in the West. But I mean, the whole narrative of Iran is upside down. It's Iran and of course Yemen and the resistance and Hezbollah that are opposing genocide. It's Iran that's supporting, you know, Cuba and Venezuela and all these countries that are under the boot of empire. But this young woman, you would think that in the West they would applaud her for her courage and bravery. But of course, she's abnormal in the eyes of the New York Times and CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and the BBC and Sky News and so on. Just on television, I was in another part of Iranian radio and TV when they bombed it, and there were two women who were on air at that time. One was on television presenting, and they wouldn't leave. And the bomb exploded, and you could see how right behind her there was an explosion in the building. They bombed the central building of Iranian National Radio and TV. The West never made a hero out of her.
Right,
and there was another woman. It's interesting. Three women. There was another woman who was a presenter on radio, and she too was defiant when the bombs were when the missiles were striking her building. And she said, "I'm ready to die." And it's, you know, it's extraordinary that none of these three women, this young woman who I don't know, I've never met her, and there are of course many other young women on the streets of Tehran these days defending their country and condemning this aggression and being steadfast in the face of U.S. bombs and Israeli count, because as Trump says, and as almost one among American elites say, these people have genetical differences. They have genetic differences, and thus they're not worthy.
Right. Yeah, and you would think that it was just like a matter of newsworthiness, right? Like I don't expect, honestly, any kind of appreciation or praise of the people of Iran. But you would think that like the Western media would just be like, wow, this is crazy. A woman is describing bombings and then it happens. But even their like kind of clickbaity headline chasing pressures are outweighed by the dehumanization of these, you know, genetically inferior people, the way that they see them as genetically inferior.
And of course, and of course, and absolutely. And in the bombing, the victim was a woman. They murdered a woman.
Right.
So of course, you know, women don't count. Why are they being bombed? Because they're there to support the Palestinian people, even though they're being bombed. They're on the streets to support the Palestinians.
Right.
To say no to genocide. I mean, these people are just, they're unbelievable.
Right. Yeah, maybe they are different, but in a good way. They're certainly different from people here. But you know, I wanted to, there's a question for you. Someone writes, I have a question for the professor. Does Iran have any Sunni allies besides Hamas? I'm not talking about people. I talk to Muslim people around the world and they all love Iran, but Iran needs allies in the region. And then I want to read a related comment, which is, Katie, please tell Dr. Marandi I am a modern liberated Arab woman and I am 100% with Iran and the Iranian people. I'm ashamed of these corrupted Arab leaders. And then I actually saw recently someone, while we were talking, texted this to me, texted me an article. Where is that article? Nate, you may have to send it to me again. It's the article that I had about Hamas. Hold on one second. I think I can find it. But do you want to respond to those questions while I bring that one up?
Yeah, I mean, if they mean governments, except for Yemen, no government supports the resistance actively like Iran. But Yemen is the prime minister that was murdered by the Israelis a while back, the prime minister of the Ansarullah government in Sana'a, was a Sunni. So it's not, I mean, the Yemeni resistance to the empire and the Yemeni resistance against the Israeli regime and the Yemenis who supported the people of Gaza and closed down the Red Sea, the cabinet and the government and the officials have people from different sects in them. So, you know, yes, Sunnis are, but if they mean governments, no, none of the governments. But the Republic of Azerbaijan is a Shia country. It's predominantly Shia, but it's a family dictatorship in power, and it's an ally of the Israeli regime.
Right.
So, the issue is that ordinary people, they support the resistance across the world, Muslim and non-Muslim. I mean, my Latin American friends, my African friends are telling me that there's a huge, interest in Iran and the revolution, and people are, they're looking beyond the narrative now in a way that never existed before. So there's a lot of sympathy and support, and among and a lot of people, a lot of activists in Western countries are Muslims, Sunni, Shia, lots of Christians, Jews, people from all walks of life. So in India, many Hindus that are opposed to the government policies are very supportive of the Palestinian cause. My own Indian friends, they support the Palestinian cause. This is, so no, I don't, I mean, yes, no, there are no governments that are Sunni that are supporting the resistance, but there are, but the supposed Shia government in the Republic of Azerbaijan is just as bad as Turkey and the Emirates and Egypt and Jordan. So, it's not an issue that like they're good and they're bad. It's that, all of these governments are basically pawns of the United States.
Right. I wanted to ask you about a story. Now, someone just sent this to me.
Katie, it's sort of like saying, it's like the whole Jewish thing to say,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Jews do they support Israel? No, many Jews don't support Israel. Many, I've heard that the majority of young Jews in America don't support Israel. So this is, many Sunnis, many Jews, many
Right.
Christians, many Hindus. They support the resistance.
Right.
And those who don't support the resistance, they may be or enemies of the Palestinians or allies of the Israeli regime. They may be Shia, they may be Sunni, they may be Christian, they may be, well, they're not really religious if they believe in a just God,
exactly, right,
and if they believe if they believe that their prophets and the men of and women of God are just, then they wouldn't support genocide. But they pretend to be religious,
right,
or they
and
pretend to be of one sect or another, but
right.
they're the exact opposite of what they claim.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to, because the question was about Hamas, right? It was asking about governments or besides Hamas. There's an article from the BBC. Hamas urges key ally Iran to halt attack on Gulf states. I don't know if you've seen this. And again, this is from the BBC, so I don't know. But I was curious about it. Let's see, where is it? By Jaroslav Lukiv. It's from today. The Palestinian armed group Hamas, which is a funny way to describe them. The Palestinian armed group Hamas has called on Iran to stop its attacks on Gulf states in a rare appeal to its key ally. In a statement, the Tehran-backed group urged its, quote, brothers in Iran to avoid targeting neighboring countries, saying, end quote, saying all regional nations should cooperate, quote, to preserve the bonds of brotherhood, end quote. At the same time, Hamas, which governs Gaza, affirmed Tehran's right to defend itself against attacks by the U.S. and Israel, who are continuing to strike Iran. The Iranian authorities have said their own retaliatory strikes target, quote, American installations, end quote, on Gulf soil rather than neighbors themselves. But many attacks have hit civilian infrastructure. In the Saturday statement, so today's statement, Hamas said it was, quote, following with deep concern the ongoing war in the region, and it called upon all states and international organizations to work towards halting the war immediately. Iran has not publicly commented on the Hamas statement. Has this made the news there? And if so, what are your thoughts?
I did see it in an Iranian channel, online channel. So, but I didn't read it. I didn't open it because there are a few things I have to explain here. First, I have to point out that I haven't read this in detail, and I don't know exactly if this is the political wing of Hamas that made the statement or the military wing, because when the political wing in 2011 and 12 tilted towards the CIA-led groups in Syria, the military wing had a different view of the situation. They were much more skeptical about what was going on in Syria than the political wing. So there was a difference between the political wing and the military wing back then. This, I don't know if this statement was the political wing, because the political wing is based in Doha.
Right.
And so Doha or Qatar hosts them. So I'm sure they're under enormous pressure to say something. Exactly. Because one of the countries that is experiencing retaliation is Qatar. So, but since I don't know the details, this may be the political wing. They're in Qatar, but again, there's been a historical difference between the military wing has always been much closer to Iran. The political wing, because of different issues, obviously being based abroad, being based in places like Qatar. There are other influences too. But one thing that I should explain to your viewers is that why is it that Iran is targeting or are striking targets in the Persian Gulf region? The reason is that all of these countries these tiny Arab family dictatorships, whether it's Kuwait or Qatar or Bahrain or the Emirates or Saudi Arabia or Oman even, all of them host bases, and those bases are very extensive. And they're not just small military bases. They have all sorts of assets across these countries. And they use those bases to target Iran. And in fact, the US military posted a video of a HIMARS missiles being fired at Iran from the Persian Gulf region. So they're using the bases, they're using their airspace, they're using missile systems to target Iran from their countries. They're complicit.
Right,
They're
of
part
course.
of this war. They're killing Iranians. They're, they say we're neutral, but it's like, it's like, for example, Canada or Mexico giving a military base to, I don't like saying the Chinese, to Brazil. I mean, sorry to my Brazilian friends, and giving military bases to Brazil, and then Brazil firing at the United States from those bases or the surrounding areas. And then the Canadians and the Mexicans say, we're neutral. It's none of our business. You
Right.
can't be neutral. These bases are in your territory.
Right.
So Iran is firing back. If Iran wanted to retaliate the way they struck Iran, they would be striking the palaces of the royal despots and the kings. They haven't done that. And another thing is that the Americans and they've left those bases and they go into hotels. So they're hiding behind civilian infrastructure. They go into the ports, the ordinary ports. The Iranians are saying we're not going to refrain from striking you simply because you're outside of the base. So these countries are in no position to complain about Iran. Last night when they struck, heavily bombed the Iranian island of Khark and another Iranian island, they were using the UAE territory for those many of those strikes. So the Iranians are striking back at the UAE. It's not Iran that started the war.
Right.
Iran did not want war. Iran negotiated to prevent war. Even if the negotiations had not made any progress, the United States still had no right to attack Iran. But the Omani foreign minister who mediated said there was progress.
Right.
And then Witkoff lied and made up fabricated stories, and Trump lied, said that the Iranians said at the negotiating table that we want to make a bomb. I mean, why in the world would the Iranians say that? The Iranians, their official position is that they don't want nuclear weapons. And then they would go and tell their enemy, Trump, and the negotiators that we want nuclear weapons. And then, fortunately, the negotiations was the Omani foreign minister was involved. He was the mediator.
Right.
What he says there's no similarity between what he said and what Witkoff and Trump were saying. So obviously they're lying. But that's the world that we live in right now. So the Iranians did not want war, but now that it's been imposed upon them, this is an existential war. So they're fighting for their survival. For Trump, for the US, this is a war of choice. It is being carried out for the sake of the Israeli regime. And the American people are sacrificing because they're paying both for the Israeli regime's expenses in this war to kill women and children, and for the U.S. military. And now that the price of energy and other products, petrochemical products, all of these are going up, Americans and people across the world have to pay because Netanyahu and the Zionists lobby and the Epstein class, they want their war.
Right. Wanted to ask you on a related note. Two questions. So what would happen if these countries said to the US, no, you can't use our bases? I mean, what would the US do to these countries? I'm not like defending their choice. I'm just wondering what they would then have to face.
here, leave our country, and we don't want to fight Iran, then the Iranians would not strike them.
Right.
It would be finished.
But the U.S.
And it would be almost
presumably do
impossible
something
for the
to them,
United
right?
States to engage in.
Or try to, yeah.
Well, yeah. When you become a proxy,
right,
and you live as a proxy,
yeah,
thinking as a dignified, independent person becomes almost impossible. All the countries in the region are basically U.S. proxies. The
right,
big ones like Turkey and Egypt, I mean, their people support the Palestinian cause. The people are opposed to U.S. domination, but the leaders, they're in the American camp.
right. Now, last question, especially because I know how uncomfortable you are physically. I want to ask you some. Okay, Professor Marandi, they are after the tomb of Cyrus the Great. Just got to trust. Long story. They already took from Gilgamesh in Iraq. Then someone said, "Go on, Sarah, fight the power." Sparky said that. Sparky also said, "Just like
I'm
the
listening.
US."
I'm listening.
Okay, sure. Yeah, definitely.
I'm listening.
Definitely take this time to get up and walk around. Just like the U.S. as a country, the U.S. military is only a shadow of a shell of what it was 40 years ago. Don't believe President Trump's hyperbole. Okay, then we had that question for you. Now, another question that we have is
one thing that I just like to address.
Yeah,
and that is that they often say how Iranian, the Iranian, their ideology is extremist, and it's from the Shia Muslim ideology. Of course, it's very much influenced by social justice because of the Prophet, his son-in-law, and standing up against the oppressor and supporting the press, as I explained once before, Imam Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet in Karbala. But the Shias also believe that near the end of time, the 12th Imam returns, and so does Jesus. And according, and in the Quran, it says that the oppressed become the oppressed, they are the inheritors of the earth.
right.
And so when they come, the oppressed are liberated. And there's nothing about destroying all the people and slaughtering all the people. It is about justice. And then these people, these Christian Zionists, want to bring all the Jews to Palestine to have them all massacred at the end of time.
Right.
And then the Zionist Jews, they do what they do, and then they call the Iranians the extremists.
Exactly.
That young girl who is speaking under the airstrikes, that's her ideology. What she's saying is that our God is bigger than your submarines or your aircraft carriers, and we are here. I mean, I'm contextualizing. I'm here. She's here because she supports the Palestinian people. And the Palestinians are not Shia Muslims. They're Sunni. And in fact, they're constantly being told by the Qataris and the Erdogans of the world and the Saudis and others that the Shias are your enemies, the Shias are bad. But the Iranians don't care. They're subjugated. The Iranians don't care if Cuba is a communist country. They're under oppression, or Venezuela.
Right.
So they try to depict Iran as somehow extremist and crazed, but in reality, this is all projection.
Yes.
They're the ones who are extremists and crazed.
Yeah, calling for the end days, calling for Armageddon, calling for that time when all the majority of Jews will be killed and then burn in hell for eternal damnation. I mean, it's unbelievable, and we covered this last week on Tuesday, which was with Colonel Wilkerson and Mikey Weinstein of the Military Freedom for Religion Foundation, where people are calling in to expose these high-up commanders who are framing this as a war for Armageddon and saying that Donald Trump was anointed by Jesus Christ, which is hilarious.
So Jesus Christ and Moses, who for us are both infallible prophets, and both of them in the Quran and Jesus's mother,
Right.
Mary, she has a verse. She's a chapter of the Quran, or Muhammad or Imam Hussein. These people would support genocide.
Right. It's absurd.
I mean, it's extraordinary that a Christian Zionist would believe that Jesus would support the slaughter of Palestinian kids, or
Right.
or having British planes flying over Gaza, gathering intelligence so that the Israelis could bomb, or American factories producing weapons to give freely to the Israelis to slaughter kids. Like Jesus would support that. Moses would support. I mean, this is not religion. This is, this is just, they just use religion. They don't believe in it, but they just use religion because that's how they can empower themselves. That's how they can subjugate others. That's how they make the world theirs.
Yeah. Yes. It's really interesting because there's all this kind of Islamophobic talk of how, Muslims, they don't value life, and that's why they have their children, they're willing to sacrifice their children. And that's why you have suicide bombers, even though Islam is very clear, from what I understand, on suicide, and it's not actually okay in Islam. They frame a lot as based on religion. But what's interesting is that there are parts of the Shia religion, which I think do explain some, and again, you have good and bad using the same religion, right? So obviously you have people weaponizing it. I mean, I don't have to explain this to you, that we've talked about this with Judaism. You can see this with Islam. You see this with Christianity. You had Christians using the Bible to justify slavery, Christians using the Bible to fight against it. But there is this fascinating and kind of overwhelming tradition that I think correlates to the kind of behavior we see of people standing in the street despite the bombing. So it is funny that there's like people who try to attribute some behavior to religion. They're right. They're just wrong in the way that they do it, right? So the people who say, oh, they're a bunch of fanatics, fundamentalists, and that's why they don't mind getting killed. But there is a real bravery that you can connect to Shia. Can you talk about this history? You refer to it a little bit, but for people who want to know more about it, this ideology, I guess.
I think, it exists in all decent people that, decent people are willing to make sacrifices of one form or another. Not everyone is necessarily prepared to make the same amount of sacrifices, but decent people, that decency makes them commit themselves to helping others. That sacrifice could be something small. It could be like, you see, I'm out of money and then you give me some sort of financial support, or I'm in some sort of trouble and you spend half a day helping me get out of trouble. These are all sacrifices. You don't have to do these sort of things. But these people on the streets of Tehran and these other streets, why are they there? Yes, they're willing to die. They're prepared to die for a cause that they believe is just. But what is that cause? It's to preserve the lives of the Palestinian kids.
Right.
It's because they love to preserve life. It's because they support the Lebanese kids that are being bombed right now as we speak, to preserve their lives. So They're willing to put their lives on the line in order to help stop the genocide. So yes, martyrdom for us is something that we're prepared for. I'm not a particularly good person. I consider myself a pretty bad person, but I'm willing to die for this cause. I'm willing to be bombed to support the Palestinian people. I'm willing to be bombed to support the Cuban people or the Venezuelan people. Wherever there's oppression, that is. But in the case of the Palestinians, it's so unbelievable, the slaughter and the over 2 years, over 7 decades, but the last 2 years and a few months has just been beyond belief. And then the flattening of apartment buildings across Lebanon. Yes, we go to the streets or we stand steadfast because that is our religious belief. We believe our role model is the grandson of the prophet, whose own role model is the prophet and the prophets, and Jesus and Moses, all of the great figures of history, and Mary, and so the grandson of the prophet, he stood firm. His sister with him, Zainab, stood firm against oppression, and they made the ultimate sacrifice. These people. So people in Iran are willing to make that sacrifice. But what is that sacrifice? It is to defend the abused. It is to defend the oppressed. And for that reason, for 47 years, we've been sanctioned. We've had 3 wars imposed upon us. We've had terrorism, and always antagonized. They send in the terrorists to kill people, and then they say the Iranians are killing peaceful protesters. They bomb the protesters themselves, and they don't even talk about it in the media. This is the upside down world that we're living in today. But these people are not going to give up the struggle, and they're not going to give up resistance. And ultimately, they cannot defeat these people.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you just pointed out, right? So I wasn't able to articulate it, but I knew you would be able to, which is basically the myth, like the Islamophobic racist trope, is that Muslims believe in the afterlife, so they're willing to martyr themselves while they kill other people. And really, it's what we're seeing is the willingness to martyr themselves. And I'm not saying all Muslims, obviously it's not a monolith, but I'm talking about the ones that are heroic, right? Like there is
yes, but Christians, I mean,
sure.
I mean, Jews have in Jewish history and Christian history.
Yes,
I mean, throughout history, you have people who've sacrificed themselves for the sake of others.
Right.
Muslims are from different sects.
Sure.
But for us in particular, this is very deep in our religious ideology because of Imam Hussein and his sister Zainab, and because of the events in Ashura. It is a very powerful and potent force. Social, the belief in social justice, the belief in being steadfast against oppressors, and so on. But this is I'm sure all of your viewers, except for maybe a couple of FBI agents who are listening in on your program every day, but I would imagine that why they listen to alternative media now, whether it's you or whether it's Max Blumenthal or whether it's Judge Napolitano or Nima or others. Everyone has that sense that we have to strive for justice, and we have to help. You want to go to Cuba? I mean, I'm sure you have other things you could do instead.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be welcomed when you come back. Right. And I'd love to be. I mean, if we weren't in war, I was supposed to actually go to Venezuela a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
But because of the situation, I couldn't go. Why do you go? Because you have that sense of responsibility, because you are willing to make sacrifices in one form or another for the sake of supporting victims. I think it's universal, except for those who think that the rest of us have genetic deficiencies or genetic abnormalities. Right. I think everyone believes that this is, a human trait.
Right. Right. No, I guess I'm just saying that there is to the again, I wish I were a believer, not to get personal. I wish I were a believer. I think it would give me a lot of solace. But what I will say is that what's fascinating is that it's not a martyrdom that allows people to kill others. It's a martyrdom or sense of an afterlife, I would say, that allows people to sacrifice in order to save and protect life, not take life away. So that's like the part.
Yes, and ISIS, and ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they are Western intelligence agencies' caricatures of Islam.
Right.
Just as Zionism is a caricature of the Judaism that friends of yourself and friends of mine have been practicing.
Right, exactly.
And the same with Christianity.
Right.
And as I said, in India, I have good friends in India who support the Palestinian cause, and they completely oppose the position taken by some of these fanatics in India. So it's something that the vast majority of human beings across the world would comprehend. It's the Epstein class and those who are affiliated to them who either can't comprehend this or don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Marandi, one more question for you. This is from Dark Matter Zombies. Very generous donation. Thank you. Dr. Marandi, which of the kings will be deposed? Will all of them? We are all Palestinian now. Free Palestine. We'll all be free. Not sure which kings he's referring to, but. Oh, let me read that to you again.
I don't know
you can't
which.
See it. Sorry.
What was his name? I was more fascinated by the name than the kings.
Dark Matter Zombies is his name. And he wants to know which of the kings will be deposed. Will all of them? We are all Palestinian now. Free Palestine. We will all be free. I don't know if he means the kings as in like the leaders of the Gulf in the Gulf.
The Persian Gulf. Yeah. I don't know, but I don't think it's ever going to go back to what it was before. These U.S. proxies will never. I mean, the Emirates, they brought it upon themselves, but the Emirates was unbelievably corrupt. I mean, Doha, Qatar, they were funding ISIS and Al Qaeda more than anyone else. The Saudis, to be fair, under Mohammed bin Salman, they distanced themselves from Wahhabism, but before him, it was they who were the real funders of these extremists. Then Qatar. And Erdogan, they supported these extremists. But the Emirates, they've been supporting all sorts of corruption. And the drug trade in our region, all the money goes through the Emirates. I mean, in Afghanistan, when the Americans were occupying the country and the drug production, poppy production went through the roof, the money was going through the Emirates. All the big drug dealers in the world are either living in the Emirates, or they're living in Los Angeles, or they're living in Miami, or they're living in New York. But one of the four places is the Emirates. So in Africa, all these dirty wars and all these militias that they destroy countries, and then they start stealing the gold from these, that gold money, the wealth that comes from the theft of the plunder of Africa, it usually goes through the Emirates. So the Emirates is the center of moral corruption in our part of the world. And I have no sympathy for the regime, obviously. But in any case, Iran didn't start this war. Iran tried to prevent the war, but they can't have bases and facilitate U.S. attacks on Iran, and then they can't have their cake and eat it too.
Right. Before you leave, Dr. Marandi, and as always, it's just amazing talking to you. But someone wrote, and thank you for this, Babak DK50, that the translation of that song that young boy Mikhail was singing is a father is love, a father is pride, a father is the man who gives everything for his family. So that apparently is the lyric. So anything else you want to add? I mean, you've been so generous with your time, and you're probably very sore on your whole bottom half of your body.
Yeah,
it's probably numb.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
The seat is not. It's a terrible seat, and I'll try to do something about it next time.
Yeah, you have to, because you're the busiest man in YouTube. Yeah.
Well, all I'd like to say is that I'm very grateful to you and to Brad and to the audience, because the heroes are not just these young people on the streets of Tehran who are, in defiance of the empire and supporting the Palestinian people. It's all those people across the world who are all in the same camp. And these are dark days and dark nights in Tehran and in other cities, and in Beirut and Baalbek in Lebanon and in Gaza, of course. But we have to be optimistic, and I have no doubt that there will be better days ahead. We may not be able to see it because or feel it because it's so dark, but I have no doubt that whether all of us survive or not, or all of us see that, is not really relevant. But there will be better days ahead, and our duty is to never be depressed or to give up, but we have to remain steadfast and do what we have to do.
Well, thank you for that. Oh, Ramadan Kareem. And
Thank you.
Of course. And definitely come back. Thank you for everything you do. You're such an inspiring, steadfast voice, and hoping and wishing for nothing but safety for you and your family and friends and all the people of Iran.
And Ramadan Kareem to you and everyone
Thank
else. And I hope to see you all soon.
Yes. And inshallah, when this is all over, I want to go to Iran. So I will definitely meet you.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, maybe we can meet in Venezuela. One of those two places.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I was speaking to one of my friends in Venezuela just a couple of hours ago, and I was saying, I'm waiting for your victory so that we can come and celebrate together.
Now, have you been there? Have you been to Venezuela?
Yeah, I've been there a number of times.
Right.
Yeah, we have.
But not to Cuba, right?
I've been to Cuba actually.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
I've been to Cuba for a couple of days, and it was great fun and very nice people.
Yeah,
very,
extremely nice
very,
people,
very
right?
tough. It was very tough then.
Yeah.
and
Right.
It must be a lot tougher now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll see you in some good nation with good people at some point.
That's almost everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Not my place. But New York's different. New York isn't America. I think of it as different. It's an outpost.
Oh, there are lots of good Americans.
Yeah.
There are lots of good people there too.
Yeah. Have a great night, and thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. See you, Brad.
Wow, what an amazing guest. It is so inspiring speaking to Dr. Marandi, and I wish and I hope that part of the reason I always bug people to like the stream is because I really want people to hear this voice. It is so important. And no matter what you think, I would say, of the Iranian government, I mean, I'm totally committed to having on voices of people like his. And I don't even want to say that. I mean, that makes it seem like I'm making a disclaimer. I'm just saying we need to have as many Iranian voices challenging American imperialism and hegemony as possible. And I'm so grateful to him for coming on the show. So please do like if you're watching this later. Just reading some chats. President Trump is sending 5,000 Marines to fool Saudis into staying with the petrodollar for the week or two to get Iran instead of switching to the Chinese yuan. Otherwise, they're going in vain. Long live Khamenei. A $20 donation. Thank you so much. This, I didn't have time to ask him. I'm sorry. I will ask him. In fact, I can even maybe I'll text him. But is the war between Pakistan and Afghanistan have something to do with Iran? In part, Trump with 3 divorces and questionable ethics is not Christ-like. Desperation risks turning politics into blasphemy. Epstein called him bestie. Re-Trump anointed Christ is like Jesus Christ. Right. Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight so that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here. John 18:36. Russia, China will not allow Iran war to end without ending Ukraine. Trump has chosen a hard landing decline. Americans focus on domestic issues, which was Trump's mandate, but he choose MEGA. I'm not sure what MEGA is. Make Iran great again, I guess. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to do this one. I will ask him about this as well. What I'll do is I'll ask him about it so we have the answer. Salam, Professor Marandi. What is the deal with Western journals talking about new supreme leader having a hidden real estate empire? I believe he spoke to that in his response, where he said he doesn't own that and doesn't own businesses, and his children don't either. Keep up the good work, Mr. Marandi. Lots of Americans love you. I'll send him all of these things. Hubris. Every American empire falls victim to it. Iran checkmated America. The rush to war with Russia has backfired. Iran demands yuan payment for tankers to pass. Meanwhile, oil has to be traded in yuan. Okay, we read that one. We read that question. Go Ansar Allah, fight the power. Molly Doodle, new member. Thank you. We read the Sparky thing. We read the I have a question beside Tomas thing. Thank you for this. Jamam, we read this statement. Thank you. Oh, no. When I was in our U.S. Army in the 1980s, we officially called the Middle East Southwest Asia. Or West Asia. Interesting. Timmy writes, the crazed monarchists are okay with destroying Iran. Definitely. So Trump promoting good old school biological racism. Yep. Thank you, Joseph, for this. Thank you, Nafis Jackson, for the membership. This is important. The double attack, this is Be the Change. The double attack was something NATO did in the former Yugoslavia with markets on market day. I remember Jamie Shea saying bombings, quote, are not aimed against the Serbian people. Okay. Thank you. Okay. And then we saw those. Yeah, new members. You guys, thank you so much. Thank you, as always, to Brad for the extra work. Thank you, Nate, so much for coming and helping. Oh, make Israel great again. I'm such an idiot. Of course, MEGA, right? Not make Iran great. I thought it was sarcastic. And if you are watching this live, you're so lucky you get this whole thing. But we are going to paywall part of Sharmine's interview because it's a little. First of all, I don't want to get us, banned from YouTube. But also because I really have to, I love my Patreon supporters. We couldn't have this show without Patreon supporters. And so we always are committed to providing you with Patreon only. Thanks, Brad Blue Eye, someone wrote. So please go to patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show to see the full interview with Sharmine, which you will not want to miss. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Also, if you need more incentives for Patreon, you have full interview with Chaim Bershit Zabner, who is fabulous guest, and talks about Israel being a chaos agent. He is an ex-Israeli. He's a military expert. He wrote a book on the Israeli military. Also, you get a full interview with Miko Peled, major anti-Zionist, but wonderful interviews. But again, if you can't do the $5 a month thing, you can just so easily support the show. If all of you watching just became Patreon members, that would be a huge help. If all of you just paid literally $12 a year, which is like a couple drinks a year, that would be great. We really appreciate it. We will see you definitely on Tuesday. Make sure again that you subscribe so you don't miss these extra streams. And like this, subscribe, become Patreon supporters. And if you listen as a podcast, rate and review us. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
I did everything right and they indicted me. And I don't know what the I'm doing. Antifa!